Welcome back to Queens Behind the Scenes. My name is Charise and I'm your host. This is the place where we empower women to lead, transform, and shine. And today we're going to be real. We're going to be getting real because the world is in shambles right now. Governments are shutting down. Leaders are playing politics with people's livelihoods. Wars are raging. Prices are climbing. And social media is lying to us with smiles. And somehow we're still expected to log into work like nothing has happened. People are losing sleep. They're losing faith and they're losing the plot. And yet Monday morning, your outlook is still pinging. And I've been doing a little bit of thinking myself around just like how we're supposed to just like show up normal when everything's anything but normal. Things are not normal. And I say that because I had to check myself and check my feelings because I was like, okay, like, you go get up, you go to work and you have to live your life. But things are not normal. And you know what's wild? No one has paused to ask how this global instability is shaping our nervous systems, right? We've normalized instability. And I think Brene Brown has said it before, like, we're not built for that. And I'll say this generation of leaders, women, Black women especially, we are holding centuries of keep it together energy in bodies that are exhausted. That's why this episode is called Mindset Reset, because what we're experiencing isn't just burnout, it's emotional inflation. That's what I've been calling it. The cost of showing up keeps rising, but the payoff is shrinking or staying stagnant. So let's unpack the why. We're not weak. So that's the one thing I had to realize the other day. I was in tears. I was kind of like, I realized that SNAP benefits will be, if they don't do something, SNAP benefits will be ending at the beginning of November. Families will be going without food. There's a whole holiday in November that's centered around food and family. And I felt weak or I was crying and I was like, no, I am not too sensitive. We're not too sensitive. We're overstimulated. We're undersupported and we're drowning in false expectations. Just show up, There's the macro chaos, the political division, violence, economic uncertainty, food insecurity, and then the micro chaos, unpaid emotional labor, toxic workplaces, constant notifications, the pressure to keep showing up and smiling. And I say that because that is how I have been feeling, is like this need to just keep showing up, even though the world around me is going insane. We're expected to be productive in an unhealed world around unhealed people. And the mismatch, that's trauma. That's our body saying, how do you expect me to perform like a machine when everything around me is screaming in crisis, right? Everything is screaming in crisis. That's why you can't focus. I know I can't. Well, perimenopause too, but can't focus. That's why you're snapping at people. That's why you feel both numb and anxious, because we were never built to live in permanent vigilance. The world's been unstable for years. We know that, but we've been gaslit into thinking if we just meditate more or buy another planner, we will be fine. No, you're not broken. The system is completely and totally broken. So I wanted to talk, I know I talk a lot about P.O.I.S.E and my framework and everything, but I do want to talk about endurance, which is one of the last pillar of P.O.I.S.E, because people confuse endurance with suffering well. Like endurance is, I know how to suffer good. No, but endurance is not pain tolerance. It's alignment maintenance. Real endurance is saying, I can't control chaos, but I can regulate how much I let it inside me, right? Here's the lie we're sold, that strong women endure anything. Especially, I say this a lot, especially Black women. You're such a strong woman. I don't want to be. I don't want to be a strong. I want to have strength, but I don't want that to be I don't want that to be the moniker on the building. Strong woman. Strong women discern what deserves their energy. And that is what strength looks like. Not tolerance of pain. I had a week recently where the world felt like it was burning, another shooting, budget drama, layoffs, and still I had, back-to-back meetings about employee engagement. And I thought, engagement? People are scared. They're scrolling through despair before breakfast, then logging in to talk about KPIs. Like, what is going on? And I say that with sincerity. What literally is going on? We can't spreadsheet our way through global trauma. We can't. Endurance now looks like truth telling, like saying, I'm not okay, but I'm here and I'm going to move with intention, not illusion. I'm not going to move and be this picture of something that you have in mind to make your brand be better. I'm going to move with intention. So let's shift. Here's the mindset reset for real. Control is an illusion. So shifting from control to centering. Control is an illusion. It's what corporations and chaos sell you to keep you performing. Centering, though, that's power. It's asking, what's mine to carry today and what's not? Because we need to really figure that out. Like, if it's not mine to carry, I need to put it right down. When you center yourself, you stop negotiating your peace with people who profit from your panic. That's just it. Shift from performance to presence. I used to believe I had to show up strong no matter what, but performing strength when you're unraveling inside is spiritual violence. Presence says, I'm here, I'm real, I'm imperfect, but I'm grounded. Presence creates safety. It tells the people around you, we can be human here. That's leadership now. Not perfection, but permission. Let me say this for the overachievers, my fellow overachievers. You can't save the world while pretending it's fine. You can't solve problems that you act like don't exist. The new success metric is, did I stay present in my truth today? Did I stay present in my truth today? Let's talk about what we can do though, because I don't believe in just venting and commiserating. I believe in investing that energy into something restorative. So here are 3 micro rituals, no perfection required. One of them for me is before my next call or any call I have, I like to close my laptop, sit still, put my hand over my chest and ask, what do I need right now? Name it out loud. Name what you need out loud. Breathe. Remind your body you're safe. Endurance does begin with safety, not stamina. And I think that's where we get a lot of confusion. Then another thing I've done is the digital Sabbath. The world will survive if you disappear for 24 hours. The problem isn't just burnout, it's information poisoning and it's coming all the time. Turn the phone off. Let silence detox your nervous system. It happens. You'll be shocked how your creativity sneaks back in when your dopamine isn't hijacked by new alerts every 5 minutes. So that's another one. And then mirror talk. I love mirror talk. Look at yourself, not your title, not your metrics, and say, I am doing my best in a world that keeps moving the goalpost. Say it until you believe it, because it is true. Because the world may be unstable, but you are the axis. We were never meant to endure alone. We just weren't. Find your people, find your group chat, your therapist, your face circle, your girlfriends who remind you who you were before titles, before work, all of that. Bookmark therapy for Black girls, the Nat Ministry, Black Girl on OWN, or grab, a Queens Behind the Scenes episode and watch that. But we really need to find our people. I always say that about finding our people. Find your tribe. And I am so lucky enough this weekend, I'm going to see some girlfriends. We're going to see Brandy and Monica, and I'm super duper excited about that because they're my safe space. And it's like a great place for me to just kind of like settle in and have a good time and decompress. And we all need that in this time. It is hard out here. And I think so many times we are asked to perform and ignore the fact that everything around us is on fire. And it is. And another thing is, for me, what has felt, pretty shitty is like people are going to lose their ability to eat, healthcare. That weighs on me heavily because when somebody asks me, how are you? I'm like, well, I'm okay. But like the rest of this shit is not okay. The rest of this shit is absolutely not okay. And we're asked to show up. And I think it's important that we are intentional about saying, hey, I'm okay or not okay in this moment. But there are people out here that it's really about to not be okay for. And I'm not going to pretend that isn't existing because it is. It's existing in the world that we live in today. And it's so hard to wrap my mind around how to show up still be productive as an adult. Not to mention people with children, they're seeing this, right? Like these children are seeing this unfold. This instability, they weren't built for, they're humans. They weren't built for that either. This constant constant news cycle that's almost like rage baiting me, for at least, but I know for like kids, it's got to be like, what is going on? You've got kids who have classmates being ripped out of their classes, people ripped out of emergency rooms by ICE. This is, I would say, for me, in modern history and what I remember, the most stable time I've lived through. I mean, minus COVID and everything that we went through with COVID, I think the same person's in charge. I mean, I know they are, but this has been such an unsettling and unstable feeling, and kids are feeling it as well. And I say, just as a mother, checking in. I always like check in with my son, like after school. How are you feeling today? How have people treated you today? How have you treated other people? How does it feel out there? I mean, in middle school, what's it like for you all living through this? And asking those questions has given me a lot of clarity around, his experience through all of this. Our kids are also having an experience. And so I think it's just important to remember we're not okay. I haven't met a single person where I'm like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, I am great. Things are great. They are usually like, I'm fine, but like the world's crazy right now and it's having an impact on me. I wouldn't classify myself as an empath at all. I'm not. I mean, I'm empathetic to people, but I don't have that trait as an empath. But lately, I have just been, I think, feeling, and I can't physically feel what other people are feeling, but like feeling despair. That's all I can even classify it as, is like a growing despair around what's happening in the world. So showing up to be a leader and feeling despair is hard to compartmentalize. And I don't try. I'm a human being. I like to be a leader who is human. I foster psychological safety in my teams and the people that I lead and the things that I do in my household. So I am always going to be a person who's like, I'm not okay. How are you guys? It's crazy out here. You've got people losing jobs, people in the federal government not getting paid. And I do a lot of work in Washington, D.C. So I see that. I see, how it's affecting the city. I see how it's affecting the people. You got, when I think of, I sometimes get off the metro and I see the National Guard and I think about when, sometimes you get on a cruise and you get off the cruise when you go off the boat and you see the like militarized officers by the dock. That's how I feel. And those are not first world countries usually, right? That's how I've been feeling. That does something to the psyche. And so you no longer feel safe. And you're still called to show up. And that is tough. And it's very hard to reason with that in your head. Like it's extremely hard for me to reason with, okay, I'm going to work, I'm getting paid, I gotta, do my job. But shit's on fire. It's blowing up. That is a very hard place to be. And one of the things I had, Z Clark was on here last season, but one of the things she and my sister-in-law have told me is about breathing. Breathe. And I've started to take these deep breaths and realizing that sometimes we don't be breathing. And it felt so much better after these deep breaths, right? Because I'm like, oh my God, that felt like a weight like off of me. That is not going to make the things that we are going through in the world disappear, but it does help you physically. It just really, we are living in unseen times. And I will say, even finding that community isn't about commiseration. It's about co-regulation, right? When you sit with people who breathe peace, your nervous system does start to remember what safety does feel like. It does. It's finding stillness in the storm and saying, I will not lose myself here. So when the world shakes again tomorrow, because trust me and believe, the world is going to shake. Remember this. You are calm. You are the reset. You are the evidence that leadership with soul still exists. So until next time, stay grounded, stay golden, and keep leading with precision, optimization, influence, strategy, and endurance. And remember, you aren't alone. So many of us are feeling this right now. And we all gotta think this despair is not permanent, but it is happening. And we need to not ignore that when we're showing up in spaces because it's happening. Until next time, Queens.